The Devolution Conference 2025 kicked off proper, of course, with openings yesterday, and now the conference of these matters happens. But isn't that what conference is? So folks put their heads together to try and figure out ways in which they're going to do things. But look at the headline on the Standard this morning when we're looking into what devolution has looked like in the country for the last 12 years. And unfortunately, the brush strokes do not paint a pretty picture. In terms of what has happened, it seems that corruption is front and center of the devolved units. 12 years on, 4 out of 47 governors over time have had these cases. There have been impeachments, there have been corruption charges, murder charges, jail sentences. It goes on and on and on. We'll start to look into devolution and what the oversight role does play for the Senate towards counties. We're going to be joined in a short while by both our guests. But for now, the Senator in the Republic of Kenya for the county of Makueni is Senator Dan Maanzo, and he's here this morning. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. I had to travel from Homa Bay overnight to make sure I attend this show.
No, let's just hold on a minute.
What?
You went from Makueni. You might have passed through Nairobi, found your way to Homa Bay.
Yes.
And then Lydia calls you and says, we need to have this conversation. So you leave Homa Bay, come back to Nairobi.
Yes.
That says a lot.
Yes. I'm here this morning and I thank God for a safe journey. Mm-hmm. Here, and as you can see, the devolution conferences will be will take off today.
Yep.
Yesterday was preparations mainly, and a few, talks here and there.
Getting into things.
Yes, and you can see that it's first of all, it's a very expensive thing to do. But a lot of people, have come in to support it.
Yeah.
Business people, counties themselves. But it's coming at a time, when doctors and nurses are striking and there's no medication in hospitals. So I was wondering, what's the use of this?
Well,
if really there are no services in the counties, it's really a challenge.
Well, those are the things that we're going to talk about today. And I like that you started off with that, because then we're going to actually see then really what devolution means. And having this conference is then a question about, are we really, focusing on the issues? You're going to be joined in a little bit by Stephen Munania, who's the Deputy Governor for Murang'a County. He's obviously going to be able to share and shed some light into some of these things that we're talking about today. But even as we get into it, let's start off by sharing today's proverb with you. Dennis is not here this morning, but I'll let you know what the proverb is, and then you can share your thoughts around that. Our proverbs this week are from Botswana. Tswana people say, a tree is straightened while it is still young. A tree is straightened while it is still young. How would you interpret that, Senator?
Botswana has a climate similar to Kambani, and acacia is one of the shrubs which grow there.
Yeah.
So if you don't tender it when it's small, then it spreads. But if you straighten up acacia, you may be able to get a very good tree, which can be more useful in future. And it's like the same thing as heating the iron when it is hot, and the same thing as you teach a child the right things when they are young. And when they grow up, then they will be upright. It's similar to that. So it means you must do things right very early at the beginning. It means if you get them wrong, then they are wrong all through.
Well, there you go. And if we segue now from there to our conversation for this morning, and we're looking into devolution and asking ourselves the question, did Kenya get devolution right from the beginning? We saw that the idea of breaking the country up into smaller pieces then was put into the 2010 Constitution. And they said, for better governance, for the avoidance of mismanagement and corruption, for the avoidance of the money remaining in one place, and for avoidance of the seat of power remaining in one place, the idea of devolution was introduced into the 2010 Constitution. And that because of that, we would then see the birth of counties. And from a leadership perspective, we would then see that governors and their deputies would now be responsible for the running and organization of counties in terms of the money, in terms of the leadership and the administration, enshrined in the Constitution. in terms of practice and how that began, did Kenya get it right? Because then we'll go to some of the things that you mentioned this morning, which are issues.
Yeah, you know, although the Constitution, the 2010 Constitution is a very good document, and wants devolution to succeed. Unfortunately, the technicalities of it are that health, which is supposed to be devolved, has never really been devolved. And I'll give an example. There's some equipment the government allegedly has leased from some suppliers to counties, and counties have to pay. These are very expensive equipments, like the ones which do scan.
Yeah.
But they get to the counties, they're supposed to be serviced. The county governments are paying for them through the national government, and they are like someone selling you a car without an engine. They have never worked for years. So you'd imagine the amount of cash wasted, you know, in that. This has been leased by the national government. And then, you know, there's so much of health still stuck at the national level than having been devolved. And I wish each government, each government which since 2010 has fully devolved health. I know Honorable Dwala is making some efforts now, but it's too late. Similarly with agriculture, means of agriculture, you've got too much control at the national government. In fact, most of the projects being done by international partners or partners, who partner with the government to do projects.
Yes,
you find these projects are manned from the national government, and the county government has almost got nothing to do with it. And most of them really have gone wrong. A lot of money has been spent, and there is no impact to the people. And agriculture is a very important, activity in Kenya. It's a source of income, it's a source of livelihood. It's the main earner here, but it's totally mismanaged. And therefore, even the cooperatives which are devolved, there's still confusion. They're still making some law, still making policies at the national level, which do not apply at the counties. Similarly with roads, roads, the rural roads, even the urban roads are devolved because there are so many urban centers. But all that is still be run from Nairobi. And you find a governor is seated in a county and is so frustrated. Most of the money they get goes into salaries, and you have very little for development. So we need to get it right. We need to practice it right and make sure that governors are accountable. It's very difficult to become a governor now because you sit in a county and there is so much poverty in that county. The devolved units are not functional. The working with the international community and partnerships is controlled, and you're just there, as a governor, frustrated. And similarly, and at the same time, corruption was devolved. So you find the fighting of corruption is not effective at the county level. And in fact, the first governors really stole from the kitty because there were so many loose ends. And that's the time also the main infrastructure in counties were being done, like the county headquarters. Things were being formalized, and there was so much money, sent to do some of these structures, and they have not been able to do so. So you have these devolution conferences and all these things going, but it's not too late. The national government can still allow devolution to take place, and you need to add the money is going to the counties and make sure that it's for development and there is enough funding for development for the devolved functions.
I have a question here because you began by talking about how health then is not devolved at the county levels, and looks like the national government doesn't want to let it go. The Auditor General for the financial year 2023-2024, as we talk about corruption, she then talks about, outlines a number of things that are going wrong in the counties, 12 years of graft. But in terms of expenditure of billions of stalled, complete and unutilized structures, there's a question there. So there is what now has been released as funds to the counties. You've got either leased medical equipment, and I'll give an example. So you've got multi-million medical equipment also in counties lying idle. In Siaya County, an X-ray machine installed at Got Agulu Sub-County Hospital was not in use due to the lack of a radiographer to operate it. In Kilifi County, they yet to utilize a 33.49 million incinerator delivered on March 5th, 2024. Just last year, the county had spent 14.4 million on the supply and delivery of digital X-ray machines. The machine was delivered on February 22nd, 2024, but a physical inspection that was carried out in October, same year last year, about 8 months later, established it was not in use and still in the store. Wrapped up in the store, it is there. In Kitui County, 2.2 million X-ray building at Kaui Hospital was complete but not in use. The county government explained that it was awaiting installation of an X-ray machine delivered in the financial year 2017-2018 that was costing 70 million. So and we can go on and on. In Kitui County Referral Hospital, a 14.5 million oxygen plant machine was supplied in the financial year 2016-2017 but was yet to be installed and commissioned at the time of the audit, that is September 2024. We can go on and on and on and look at all these different counties. And then the question then is, beyond money that doesn't necessarily go into what it was essentially supposed to do, here's a situation where you have money that has been disbursed, equipment is in place, or a building and a structure is in place, but because either you lack somebody to operate or you don't know how to operate it, things are still in boxes, in counties.
And hoarding a lot of money. And what is happening to the people, like scan and X-rays? You go to a hospital, which is supposed to be, cheap, and a shower and all that, and then you are sent to a private hospital where the same things are functional.
The same machine is in that.
The same machine is functional. There's a radiographer and all those people, and then you can imagine what it is, because Kenyans are suffering. Kenyans are not being served by devolution. There is total disorganization, and I think counties should be left to handle their affairs. You see, the national government buys or leases and puts that machine there. It has no operator. It doesn't have the proper buildings. You do the buildings, you find that there are a lot of pending bills. There are people who did all this infrastructure. They have not been paid for years, so they fail to come and complete. And therefore, things stay there for 5 years. One governor after another. I think it's terrible. And as much as we can pretend that things are okay in Kenya, things are not.
So these units, the units of devolution are the counties. The agents of devolution are governors and their deputies. And then we say that those who are in oversight for counties are senates. Has it then failed? Has devolution failed if, from what you're saying, it has not worked? I mean, Senator, come on. We've seen situations in the country where that because of devolution, we've seen parts of this country develop in a manner in which they never did. We look at some counties, look at Kwale, look at what happened in counties like Uasin Gishu, Elgeyo Marakwet, look at what happens in counties like Turkana, that because of devolution, people are, number one, able to go back to their places of origin and are able to work. There's business being done with counties. We could talk about pending bills, which we will, but at the very start, it gave an opportunity towards development that never was experienced before. Can we count?
That's very true. Previously, the devolved units were, there were. It used to happen under the minister in charge of local government.
Yeah.
And even that minister used to appoint, even nominate councillors, and even manage how there's going to be a mayor. And everything was wired to that particular minister of local government in Nairobi. So I want to say between before 2010 and after 2010, after governors came to the management of the counties, there's quite a big difference and a big improvement. But we are not yet there. If we assess ourselves, there is too much wastage. We need to improve to make sure. I've been, you see, Senate does the oversight role.
Yeah.
And I've been in those counties you are mentioning. I've been to Kwale. to inspect, the regulations, the delegated regulations of those counties. And I've also been to Turkana when we went Senate Mashinani. We usually do that, and we toured quite a number of projects in Turkana County, and you could see, despite the little effort to devolve, there is a big gap, and there's yet a lot to be done. There is a cooperative for fishing in Turkana, which stalled years ago, and despite there being a county government, it has not managed to get it back to what it was. The agriculture, there are a little bit of irrigation here and there, but you can see the National Irrigation Board is still holding into this project. So our governor wants to move, but he can't move. The national government is holding them. Agriculture is devolved. So I want to say there is a big improvement, definitely, to services. But if I were to give a percentage, I would say they have scored 30% instead of 80. That is still not A.
It's not
B,
even a
not
D.
C, not D. So we had 30. I'll rate it at 30 or so. But it's a much bigger improvement than what we used to do when we used to have local governments.
The Deputy Governor for Murang'a County is Stephen Munania. He joins us this morning as well. Good morning, DG.
Good morning.
Karibu sana.
Yes, I want to apologize for being a little bit late.
Now that we're using a little,
yes.
The senator here has given a very little in terms of a score, in terms of what devolution has actually been able to achieve in the country,
yes,
because of certain things like corruption. So we're going to throw you into it right there and ask the question, has then devolution become, or has it been used, a conduit for corruption that has taken corruption from where it was centered and has now funneled it to different parts of the country? Or has the other side of devolution, which Senator gives 30% for, actually been the thing that has been achieved?
I think what we are seeing right now in terms of devolution in the last 13 years, corruption has been a consistent problem across this country, whether it's from the national government or the devolved systems for a while, even since the inception of this of our administration. And it has been a teething problem on development and on governance for a very long time. What you are seeing is systems at work. And the reason why I say systems at work is because the corruption that has been netted when you see the control of budget, when you see the Auditor General raising queries, it means that books are being audited and people are being held to account. And
are they?
Yes.
Are they being held to account?
Because look at the past, part of the reason why I'm saying that is look at the past 5 years. How many governors are facing corruption charges in our judicial system? The only challenge that has been is that the process is not as fast as we would want it to be. But the process, I would say the process is at work. The challenge that we have in terms of the development and in terms of the constraint, in terms of what we ought to have seen on the ground and what is being actually seen on the ground, is a situation where you find that the resources that are available at the counties are very much constrained. And so when the issue of corruption comes in, it's coupled together with the strained resources. So, for example, and I want to give a good example in so many counties, you find that so many counties use over 50% of their budget in recurrent, what you call even salaries, what you call within the recurrent side. And that becomes a challenge because then you find that only a few employees, maybe a few employees compared to the population. Because you find, for example, in Murang'a, we have 5,000 employees who are county government employees. And then you find that the people of Murang'a are 1.1 million. Same case, go to Makueni, where Senator Maanzo comes from. Maybe the number of public employees are less than 5,000. But the population of Makueni is over 700,000. Senator is going to tell you the number of that population. But then when you find to the budget and the salaries that are allocated per annum, you find that the money that goes to salaries is close to 5 billion, close to 4 billion, whereas the rest of the population now seems to share a very lean budget. And now when you translate that towards development, then and you look at the budget in its face value, then you tend to feel like maybe this money is getting lost somewhere. And that still remains to be the challenge that I would express in that regard.
But money doesn't get lost. Money is taken.
Yes.
Money is stolen. Money is moved.
Yes.
By humans.
Yes. And by all means, the people who do that should be held into account. But the challenge that we are facing right now, and I want to put it very categorically, because county governments are under a lot of pressure to be able to perform. But the kind of oversight you see in county government is not the same oversight that you see in terms of the national in terms of the national government. And we have continually seen a skewed criticism of county government as opposed to national government in terms of books of account, in terms of audit, in terms of how we manage resources. And I want to challenge Senator Maanzo and the Senate here. Part of the responsibility of the Senate is to provide oversight to the counties. An oversight role. That is one of their responsibilities. The second part of their responsibility is to ensure that they are champions of county government at the national level. What I have seen senators do, and what the Senate has done, is to become a tribunal to judge governors each and every day. What they have not provided is structures in which that the law can be utilized to fill in the gaps. And this still remains the challenge at the Senate. For example, we have taken so many challenges to the Senate to be addressed in terms of a law, so that we can, because one of the stopgap measures that we have seen in terms of corruption is the difference, is the power struggles that you have seen in the counties, whether it's in the county assemblies, whether it's in between the governors and their deputies. But when these laws reach to the Senate are only concerned by in their oversight role when it comes to the criticism of the governor, because majority of the senators want to get into the gubernatorial seats in the coming elections, and this has created a gap into which that the lacuna of law has not been established clearly by the Senate to allow for these measures. For example, you can ask Senator Maanzo here how long it has taken for them to clearly define the roles of the deputy governors and their governors, which has created problems in the devolved units for the last 13 years. They have not yet done that. So that now you find that the challenge, you look at the scenarios in which county governments are taken through, and when you see the challenges that the county government are facing, and it's because when the lacuna of law is not clearly established at the national level, the county government basically are dealing with laws that have stopgaps. Another example.
DG, before you gave another example, so what's the challenge between the deputy governor and the governor?
Yes.
What challenge?
The challenge that still remains is that it has clearly never been defined the roles of deputy governors. And when you have, and I want to put it in a scenario that majority of Kenyans are going to understand, because they are political issues, others are interpersonal issues. I don't want to go to the interpersonal issues between governors and their deputies. I want to go clearly on the structural issues that exist within the county government. One, you find that the deputy governor and the governor largely come to the ballot under a single ticket. Majorly, they are major politicians from either former members of parliament or members of any other party. They have joined hands to get there. Higher, you find that part of the reasoning on how a deputy governor and a governor comes into it has a geographical indications of the counties. So that you have, for example, other counties, you want a representation from this region, another representation of this region, where you have cosmopolitan structures within counties. You find maybe a governor comes from this community, the deputy governor comes from this community, so that you can have a democratic way of representation at the county government. However, the deputy governor find themselves at the mercy of their governors in terms of all state provided functions, utilities, including their vehicles, including their fuel, including any other thing that they might utilize in that office.
Why?
Including responsibilities.
Why?
It is what that was designed as part of the within the 2010 constitution. The constitution states, but then that process should have been redefined
by Senate.
Yes. It's the job of the Senate.
But DG, before Senator answers, the same constitution you're quoting, Article 179,
Yes.
1 and Part 5 of the Constitution states that the governor and the deputy governor are the chief executive leadership of the county.
Yes.
The Constitution puts those two. So it's not separating the governor and the deputy, it's the two. So you are the chief executive leadership of the county working together to run the county executive committee.
Yes.
Then the next part is the deputy governor is the principal assistant to the governor, meaning you are working together and assisting the governor according to this framework in the Constitution. So what then you're saying, the core functions, because you took an oath of office, correct?
Yes.
So you understand your role as the deputy governor. So how then should it be redefined in the Constitution, your role in the county? Between you and the governor. That's why I'm trying to understand. Because the Constitution actually gives and defines clearly what your job is and what your role is.
Let me get there.
Can I assist
The
first?
Senator is here.
First, I want to say that the deputy governor from Murang'a is a very lucky deputy governor because he has a reasonable governor and the governor is very fair. And similarly, that's a culture which has been created in Makueni. Kibutha Kibwana and the deputy, though towards the end they had political differences and it was nasty. You can see Mutula Kilonzo Jr., the governor for Makueni, and the deputy governor for Makueni, who in Makueni, in fact, we do, if the governor is a man, the deputy is a lady. And the current deputy governor in Makueni, Mrs. Mulili, is a lady who was a county commissioner. She's a very experienced administrator. So you find there's a very good tie and a link between the national government in Makueni through her, and also administratively, she's very helpful to Mutula, who is originally a lawyer and a senator. And there are many counties where the two go well, but there are also other counties where the governor...
It's not many. Very small percentage.
Yes, I'm saying Makueni and Murang'a are good examples.
Yes.
But there are many other counties where, in fact, you saw the case of Kisii. We had to impeach the deputy governor of Kisii. Although the reason we impeached him was more of a personal crime he committed, but it was also coupled with several other differences. You remember Siaya Orengo and the deputy. Immediately they started off. There was a big issue. And a few days, Orengo was busy doing the election petitions. The deputy governor had assumed the full role of a governor. And of course, there were differences. It also came to Senate, but he wasn't impeached. The Senate saved him and sent him back. But there has been a friction ever since. So I want to say that it depends on the two of them. The law is already there, although there has been proposals that we should define further, because some describe it as like a husband and wife scenario, whereby the deputies at the it's like at the balcony of the governor. It's
like,
clear examples are. What is a deputy governor supposed to do with his functions if he is not given any fuel to travel even within his own county?
Are you given fuel to travel within your county?
The vehicle, you are given a vehicle, a county vehicle.
You are given a county vehicle.
You are given a county vehicle.
But is the governor giving you that, or it's the county
supposed to give you?
You see, that's the challenge that we seem not to understand. That these two things are when the CEO provides a budget, and then the CEO is the one that adjudicates that budget. If the CEO does not provide any budget to the deputy governor, what else do you expect?
Let's get this clear.
Yes.
The Constitution, the Counties Act, actually provide for these things that we're talking about very clearly. that it is to the deputy governor, because remember, these are agents of devolution. We are saying that the agents of devolution to make devolution come to life in the counties are the governor and the deputy governor.
Yes.
It doesn't say the governor will then decide when and which functions the deputy governor then can operate within. It's very clear.
Yes.
And they've said that it is these two agents who are responsible for this. Under what circumstances then does it change until the point that Senate is now being asked, make the law? The law is there. It's very clear in terms of what should happen.
Let me give you another example. You remember Machakos, Mutua and his deputy Kiala, those days. It even came to Senate. And the Senate sent him back. But when he got back, he was now no longer, he had just an office and a newspaper and nothing else. No car. And no work for 5 good years. That did happen in Machakos County during the reign of Mutua. So it's true, but it's sometimes also some deputy governors also want to outshine the governor. And remember, should something happen to the governor, the deputy immediately becomes
the governor.
No, that is where I tend to differ.
What do you differ? Yeah.
The reason why I tend to differ is because part of that reasoning is based on an unrealistic and unproven mechanism. Because I want to ask Senator Maanzo here. He has been in politics for a while. And politics, most of the times you indicate by the value of influence for someone to become a deputy governor. The only time that a deputy governor becomes a governor without going through an elections is through impeachment. But largely, what has happened within the last 13 years, ask yourself how many deputy governors have become governors through way of impeachment. Only 2. The case of Meru, the other day,
yes,
and the case of Waitito in the previous term. Ask yourself, how many deputy governors since 2013 have beaten out their governors in a general election so that reasoning makes sense? None of them. Ask yourself, how many have gone to become governors from their previous administration? Only 1.
So, are we essentially saying that there's no need for deputy governor?
No, what we are saying is not the challenge that we have seen here is the fear that comes from the office of the deputy governor.
Let me ask.
It's the same challenge that you saw with the deputy president and the president.
Allow me to ask it differently. If for the last 12 years now, going into the 13th year, that there has been this push and pull. There are questions, the deputy governor is not doing this. I can only do this if the governor is not around. I can't even sign checks. I can't do whatever. County functions have been going on for those 12 years,
yes,
with governors complaining. They've come together. We had a famous case of the Nyeri deputy governor at the time when she was basically locked out of office. They didn't allow her to essentially do anything because of a tiff that she had with the governor. County functions continue. So the very difficult question of, if there's this constant push and pull between governor and deputy governor, but county functions are continuing, is there a need for deputy governors?
I think the biggest challenge that I can be able to indicate is what we have seen, and that biggest challenge, it has been there across counties. And I want to give a clear example with what I have seen in my county in the last
while remembering the question of whether there is actually a need
that's
for
what I want
deputy
to that's what I want to explain. In the last 10 years, Murang'a County has had warring deputy governors with the previous governor. We are the third deputy governor, whereas there is only 2 governors in the county. The challenge has always been on those functions. But then I want to also to challenge about the functionality of a government when you have 2 warring parties at the head of governance. And then you look past that and you look where governors are working together with their deputies and how effective that county government is. And I'm going to give an example with myself because we have a very good working relationship with my governor. In terms of being a principal assistant, I'm effectively the principal assistant to the governor, leading county executive meetings, doing all the work that is supposed to be doing in delivering towards the manifesto that we give to the people of Murang'a. And what we have seen in the last 3 years is effectively good governance. I don't want to toot my own horn. You are going to tell me how we are doing in Murang'a. But generally, we have had a very good working relationship, and that has translated to service delivery. So what I want to indicate is that is not that the absence of deputy governors that things would go smoothly, because then you would find the same scenario would then arise with county executive members, because the same issue still arises in counties. It's only that it is not in the media, that county executive members are in tussle with their governors in terms of executive the functions of the county. And so you see this challenge that arises. The same case you see county assemblies and the governors having quite a challenge in terms of, for example, you saw the situation in Kericho. The governor stood up and said that now we are going to dissolve the entire county government because now he is in the second tranche of impeachment in the last 1 year. And so you see that the tussle is not based on the structures. It's based on how administrative functions are handled from the executive and how governance structures are translated.
So how would Senator Maanzo and the Senate come in to solve that problem?
Because Senator Maanzo and the Senate are the people we go to when we want to find legal challenges for the counties.
So, sorry, Senator, I need to understand how you would come in to solve this problem, which seems to be a character issue and not necessarily a law issue.
We have a committee of devolution, and we also have a committee of national cohesion, which I serve within the Senate. And it is the committee of devolution now which goes and sits down with a certain county which has issues either between the governor and the deputy or between the governor and the executive or the governor and the assembly. And it is headed for, it's headed by elderly men, who really help resolve issues. And it has worked very well. I know the Senator for Siaya, Oburu Odinga, sits there, and the Senator for Wajir. They are able to help. And it happens, it gets very busy at times, that particular committee of devolution, sorting out issues like this. But when they become a little bit rough, then you find the deputy governor issue has now been brought to the Senate either for axing or impeachment. And then you have seen, I told you the case of Machakos, Mutua and his deputy Kiala came, and Kiala was sent back. In Kisii, you saw between Governor Simba Arati and the deputy went home. And you have seen it in Siaya, between Orengo and the deputy was sent back. He was saved by the full house of Senate, but there was also a political interference that time. The UDA senators came out in large numbers to save him. So those problems do exist, and quite in a number of times the Senate is seized of them and does a lot, quietly through that committee of devolution or the committee of national cohesion to make sure that there is smooth operation in different counties.
It seems to me, Senator, and also DG, it seems to me it's and we've had these stories before, because we earlier had the conversation of when you're talking about corruption and looking at the books at the county level, and it trickles down from the national government. They're also doing the same corruption, but the spotlight is more on now counties. It seems to me the power play is also equally the same with the national government, because there was a time we were told the former president Uhuru Kenyatta couldn't work with his former Ruto, because Ruto for some reason was outshining him, and there were all these political issues. And then later we see the same thing happen again when now Ruto becomes president with his former deputy Rigathi Gachagua. Same thing again. Looks like then at the county level, the constitution really has addressed itself to their roles, the core roles. And as the assistant to the governor, the main deputy, his work is to coordinate county departments. Am I correct? And this includes projects and service delivery.
Yes.
What then this means is the deputy governor will obviously be meeting with the people and the personnel that works around these departments, and go to the fields where they're meeting people around these projects. And then the second thing is representing then the governor at official functions. So the first bit is acts as the governor's main deputy in coordinating all these things. The second is may represent then the governor at official functions, including public events.
Yes.
So now here is where it's a question of ego. It's a question of lacking the will. The Constitution has addressed itself, but there's a question of ego, a question of character, and a question of power play.
I think what you are clearly defining is the extent into which we have implemented devolution in the last 13 years. And it requires both a political goodwill on all elected leaders across the country for service delivery. Because from where I sit, this power play has continued even at the national level, even when it comes to execution of budget and even appropriating monies for the counties. And Senator Maanzo is going to tell you here that the counties clearly need resources for the purpose of development. But what we have clearly seen, and I'm going to look at the devolved functions. You see, we have a devolved function in agriculture. And then when you go to Schedule 4, what remains in the national government is agricultural policy. But then you find that the budget of the Ministry of Agriculture at the national level is almost 3 times the combined budget of agriculture in all 47 counties. Same case in health. Same case in any other function that is devolved. Then you ask yourself, where is these resources remaining at the national level and not at the county to do the devolved function?
Because, do you ask?
Yes.
I have to hold you there.
Yes.
Do you ask? Why don't
that's the work of the Senate. That's the work of the Senate.
Senator
because
Maanzo.
They are the people who should be fighting for this thing. Because by the time, for example, the governors have been reduced to go to court for the purpose of allocations. We are going to court as a council of governors for the purpose of those allocations. But when we are having the conversation about the budget at the Senate level, the senators, for example, in the last budget, when we are making the last budget, there are several items that made the governors go to court. One of them was based on issuance of bursaries. The second was on issue of road maintenance levy, and some of those issues. The road maintenance levy, the court pronounced itself. But then you find that the controller of budget can unilaterally create a memo and say that county governments cannot provide for bursaries. And to some extent, saying that secondary schools and tertiary institutions belong towards the national government functions.
Okay.
It's fine. But the bursaries are usually not provided to those institutions. They are provided to the people as part of social welfare of the counties.
Is it fair to say, Senator, then, that devolution is punching below its weight because the budget making and law making bodies are not doing their job?
Yes.
As the Senator, would you say that that's the case? Devolution not reaching its full potential?
Yes.
Or even, you remember you gave it 30%, not even reaching 50% because lawmaking, oversight, budget making bodies, parliament is not doing its job.
What has happened is that particular issue is before the Supreme Court now for advice. Because as senators, we felt that a lot of that was being done by the National Assembly and not the Senate. And by the time you get what you call Division of Revenue Bill, but it's already determined at the National Assembly, and there is very little you can change. And when it comes to allocating monies to the counties, it's more determined by the national government and National Assembly than by the Senate. And that's matter now. Right now, is being canvassed at the Supreme Court, and I hope very soon we'll get a way forward in it. You remember there was a mediation committee to try to mediate the monies which should be added to the counties. And truly, to say, the counties are underfunded by the budget. That is very true. We are not even at the constitutional threshold. And I think there should be a deliberate effort to do so. But at the same time, and I have had an opportunity to visit with the Committee of Education, and we are finding that the counties are supposed to deal with the tertiary institutions. First, the ECDs, there are certain standards which must be there for the children, as we did with the proverb.
Yeah.
You must get it right. You have seen children suffering. You saw the story of Tharaka. You know, children in horrible classrooms. The County Government's Act provides how that, and what that ECD school should look like with the 2 classrooms with clean washrooms and what should be provided for the benefit of children like that. And that's their budget for education. Then the post-secondary training, the colleges which they have, TVETs, these TVETs, they are certain to have a certain infrastructure, and apparently they are very expensive, even to teach somebody welding, because you have to buy the material as a county, and then you have to use electricity, and you have to have facilities for that. But then when now you go and fund a secondary school bursary, which is a matter of national government, and where the Ministry of Education has such bursaries, and the MP through CDF has also bursaries. Then you come and scoop another big chunk from the county's money to fund a national function. That has been a source of conflict, and we are working on it to make sure that also the devolved units, the counties, do the ECDs the way they are supposed to be done by law, and then proceed to make sure the tertiary colleges, which is very important training, things like electricians, the counties can generate a lot of these people who are very useful in the construction industry, and in fact are very well paid worldwide. Here in Kenya is only that nobody values a plumber, but a plumber is paid very well in London. Just to connect that water.
It's very interesting.
So that is going on. That's happening. And issues have been raised as to whether they should pay bursary for kids going to secondary school, because that bursary is there in CDF. You find the governor has given bursary to the same child who has been given by CDF, who has been given by national government, who has been given by corporate social responsibility by banks. Cooperative bank do this. So there's a way we need to deal with the bursary issue to make sure it comes from one kitty and takes care of the disadvantaged children.
The bursary issue is just one issue, and I would want when the Senate really interrogates what devolution means in each and every step, they should ask more concrete questions. For example, that is just one of them that they are asking to the counties why we are funding tertiary, secondary and tertiary institutions in terms of bursaries. But then they should also, in the same breath, ask the national government why it's funding hospitals at level 4 instead of providing that money. If the money is available for equipping, then why is the president the one to determine which level 4 hospital, which clearly a county government function, should get which machine, whether it's an X-ray, a CT scan. At the same breath, why is the national government involving itself in terms of vaccination, which is clearly veterinary services are county government functions? If they have the resources, then why is the Senate not asking the national government these questions? Why are they not utilizing? In the same breath, we have institutions that are supposed to serve both the national and the county government that are serving only the national government and forgetting that they are also to serve the county government. And what they do is lecture the county government on their functions. One of them is the control of budget. The control of budget is the one that passes each and every budget that goes, is the one that signs. That the budget that goes towards the Ministry of Agriculture for veterinary services. But when the same vote line that comes from the county in terms of bursaries, he says, now this does not, it shouldn't go to the counties, should not pay these bursaries. But then in the same breath, he approves what is a devolved function at the national level, instead of saying that this should not be effectively taken. Look at the National Treasury. The National Treasury, in its funding model and how it releases the trenches of money, the first charge that you see from the National Treasury is funding ministries, funding the executive at the national level. But the counties has to wait months and months for their disbursements to come.
My question then is this devolution conference just pomp, color and fanfare and lacking of these serious conversations? Because this is not the first time this thing has come up.
Yes.
Every year, we've had a series of these conferences.
Yes.
Where all the stakeholders, the Council of Government, the line ministries,
Spice up your life
and addresses himself to the governors. Are these conversations held behind the scenes, away from the full glare of cameras and the microphones, or is it just a fanfare?
They don't happen. They don't happen, so and I'm going to tell you that they don't happen.
So this devolution is just fanfare.
I'm telling you, because in the same breath that you're going to see the executive at the national level in the devolution conference today, You're going to see them in the next 3 days making speeches and making speeches and making speeches. I want you to ask within the next 1 month, how many counties are going to receive their share capitation, which we have that since March. Murang'a County is old almost 200 million. Yet, you see the PS pronouncing herself the other week that level 2s and level 3s are supposed to be free. Where are we supposed to get medicine and to actually even pay for even a single equipment of non-farms when even the funds that are supposed to fund that level are not available? We have debts at the national government at that level. Ask the counties. And this is the conversation, because look even at the development structures that we have. If the executive at the national level wants to meet the people, they are using county government functions to do it. And instead of using that funds to bring to the counties, then you find yourself that now even the revenue generating streams, for example, the markets that are being done, were supposed to be taken over by the national government, not only in construction, but also in collecting revenue.
Looking at these issues, there are many that obviously are on ground. There is a plethora of issues when we get from the ambience or lack of it between deputy governors and the governors. When we look at monies that should leave the central government and come to counties, the oversight role that Senate plays, and then everybody, conferencing in one place to have this 5-day conference every year. Are we seeing that there is a need, or rather that we're seeing that there is action direct towards making sure that the spirit of devolution that was envisioned in the Constitution is actually playing out, Senator?
Well, I want to say that when you look at the program of the current devolution conference, none of these issues are poking out. The conference is supposed to deal with issues related to devolution. And that's the time when the national government meets the county government. They must face each other at that conference. And what's supposed to go to the counties is given to the counties. Otherwise, what we have in the country now are weakened institutions. We have weakened county governments. We have weakened National Assembly. We have weakened Senate. And we have a lot of unaddressed problems, which somebody is just sweeping under the carpet and making sure that devolution, stalls or is not really achieved as required by the law. I will call it like a lack of political goodwill. If there's political goodwill, the counties will function. But at the same time, lack of, proper fighting of corruption. The biggest problem of this country is corruption at national level, which has now been devolved, and our taxes are being looted left, right, and center. And there's no teeth to bite, and make sure that those who have looted the counties are forced to return the money. It's really, as you call it, funfair. This devolution conference is just going to be funfair.
Waste of money, time, resources.
I think we have to have a very candid conversation about the state of devolution.
Yes.
Because, and I want to urge every senator and every governor and every member of county executive who are having conversation at the Council of Governors.
It's necessary.
Devolution left to do right. Can change the face of this nation. Because you see, for example, in where healthcare, for example, did not reach during the National Assembly, during the provincial system, you find that right now people are getting adequate healthcare with the devolution. And so once devolution and development goes to the grassroots level, then at that juncture, then every Kenyan can be able to receive services.
Okay. Well, it's necessary to have face à face en français, as we say, conversation about this, because absolutely necessary. It seems, weakened institutions are definitely not agents of anything.
Yes.
And so this conversation is front and center. We want to thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you.
And I know that you're probably now dashing off to Homa Bay.
Yes.
To join the fanfare.
I left the fanfare.
Senator for the Republic of Kenya from the county of Makueni is Senator Dan Maanzo, and the Deputy Governor of Murang'a County, Stephen Munania. Thank you so much, both of you, for being here. It continues. Asante sana.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.